If you watch my videos, if you like my videos, you know what that says about you? I haven't a damn clue, and neither does anybody else. Uh, you don't realize how much you slouch until you put on a freaking corset and it straightens your back out and suddenly the top of your head's cut off. Like, wow, I really do slouch, don't I? Anyways, how are folks doing? This is a broad topic that I've kind of touched on in small ways over the years. I just kind of want to put my definitive statement about it. And it kind of is summed up by the title. And it's one of those things that I think most people will go, yeah, we know that. Do you though? Do you really? Because going by the behavior of a lot of folks out there, including in my own comment section, I'm not sure you do know it. Or at least, I'm not sure you believe it. What that sentiment is, assuming I didn't change the title and make that entire thing confusing, your media diet, your entertainment, the things that you enjoy are not your morals. They are not a reflection of your morals. When talking about entertainment, I'm going to underline that. Because yes, there are absolutely things that you can like and enjoy that are reflective of morals and may reflect very, very, very badly depending on how they impact other people. But what we're dealing with today is entertainment. And we are not dealing with what you do in your personal life, what you do with or to other individual people. That is much more of a reflection. Because ultimately, my point here is what you like and what you think are not nearly as important as what you do. Now, one obviously influences the other. Hold on to that one. We'll come back to it towards the end. We're going to tie it all back up. But broadly speaking, liking a certain piece of entertainment, whatever it is, does not reflect on you as a person. Now, the other thing that we are going to take out of the conversation here, not because it doesn't matter, but because it's not what I'm dealing with today, are the notions of problematic creators. Yes, obviously J.K. Rowling is the big one. And it actually, like, quick sidebar and tangent on that, it really frustrates me that whenever we have conversations about death of the author, separate the artist from the art, can you support problematic creators, that her name always comes up. It actually honestly shouldn't. Not when we're talking about the concept in general, because her grip over Harry Potter breaks the conversation in ways that becomes unhelpful. Because there is no other large-scale franchise with that much pop culture penetration and that widespread that is under the control of one and only one person who benefits financially from every single sale of anything tied to it. There is nothing else like that. Back when George Lucas owned Star Wars, you could make an argument for him. He wasn't problematic in the ways that she was, but he was the only other person that I can think of a property that scale where the buck stopped with him. She's the only one who's like that. So honestly, we shouldn't even be dealing with her when we're trying to talk about these broad concepts anyway, because she breaks the conversation because she's such an outlier. Tangent over. But my point being, today, while the impact that supporting a certain artist, especially financially, does have, that can be a reflection of your morals, or at least what things you are willing to overlook, which I would say, again, is a reflection of your morals. And that is certainly not something to ignore. It's not what we're doing today. Today, we are talking only about the work itself. Now, I do feel by and large that fandom spaces have become increasingly judgmental about what people do or don't like. And not just saying, I disagree with you, but like making big sweeping assumptions about someone based off what they do or don't like. I don't really want to go down the rabbit hole of trying to speculate why it seems like that it's increasing, but I do feel that it is. Now, in many ways, this entire conversation is an offshoot or a sort of parallel, I suppose, to the video I made talking about how you cannot judge artists strictly off the art that they make. You know, whenever a creator or an artist of any kind tells you what their beliefs are and makes it clear what it is they meant by the things they do, yes, you can absolutely judge that. But when all you've got is the work, you cannot assume just because this piece of work from them carried these messages that that person holds these beliefs. Because artists will explore stuff that they don't actually believe all the time, either purposefully engaging with stuff that is not what they personally believe, or just not even realizing the full implications of what it is they're doing because they thought the aesthetic of something was cool. Again, I did a whole video on that already, and this is kind of an expansion of that same idea. Not only can you not make assumptions about the core beliefs of an artist based only off their art with no information about them as a person, you also can't make big sweeping judgments about someone who consumes a certain piece of art and you know very little or indeed nothing else about them. You cannot make big sweeping judgments. Now, again, I suspect people might think, well, yeah, duh. I think we all get that. Yeah, I'm not sure you do. Let me give you an example. So there is the Marvel character of the Punisher. The Punisher is a vigilante. Within the Marvel Universe, he is someone who uses lethal force, focusing on mostly street-level crime activity. So gangs, occasionally dealing with mafia and corruption, and occasionally going into some wild directions, like he was a Frankenstein monster for a bit, and he was like an agent of heaven with holy bullets, and they made him black for a little bit. Not like retcon the character. I mean, they like dyed the character's skin black. There's been some weird stuff that's gone on with the Punisher. But his core thing is he kills criminals. That's what he does. Now, you might already find yourself making a lot of assumptions about that, if you know the character or not. But here's the thing. I like the Punisher. Sometimes, when he's done well. But there have absolutely been times that I enjoy Punisher media. I think Welcome Back, Frank is really good. It's actually the one thing from Garth Ennis that I really legitimately like was some of his work on the Punisher. He's the creator of The Boys and Preacher, amongst other things. I don't really care for his stuff, but he married with the Punisher pretty well. I also am quite a big fan of the movie Punisher Warzone. I think it's fantastic. Now, why do I like the Punisher? Well, at its best, or at least when it's doing the things that I like, amongst other things, I find it to be darkly funny. When it leans into how preposterous the scenarios are without necessarily going over the top cartoonish, but like there is a certain level of absurdity that can be incredibly humorous. There's the fact that I think it also does very well when it confronts the ethics of Frank, what he does, and on several different occasions, what he thinks about people who are inspired to do what he does. Because Frank, at least when I like him, he does what he does and maybe even thinks it's necessary, but he doesn't think it's righteous. And he definitely doesn't think anybody else should be doing it. And in specific, he definitely doesn't think anybody who's an actual law enforcer should ever be doing what he does. And I enjoy those kinds of confrontations. But if you're aware of the pop culture impact of a character like the Punisher, then you're probably also aware that some people like the Punisher because they think gunning down people in the street who deserve it is awesome. There is a rather disturbing phenomenon of police officers who have praised or made use of or co-opted the Punisher logo. It does incline me to think that they like this character for very, very, very different reasons than I do. Now, that's just one example, but it's true of basically any piece of media. Different people like a thing for different reasons. Unless somebody has told you the reasons that they like something, you don't know what it is. It's one of the things that gets really frustrating about people, be they commenters or be they pundits, who make these big sweeping judgments about what certain kinds of audiences, often audiences that they are not part of and don't like, want or like, or the reasons they like a thing. The claim of liking something just because it owns the libs, or liking something just because it's woke DEI crap, and you always automatically like that. Like, I've seen it on both sides. I've seen it harsher on one particular side, but I have seen it on both. And it's something that in the past I've probably done to a certain extent, but there's a reason why at this point, whenever I talk media analysis or review, my focus is on my feelings and what I think about it. And I spend very little time on speculating what other people think about it, because that shouldn't be a deciding factor in my own views anyways. But also, I don't know. I might know what people are saying, but if people, say that they like a thing or don't like a thing, it may or may not be for the same reasons that I do. Kind of already touched on liking the same thing. I kind of had my first taste of this a long time ago when Ghostbusters 2016 came out, because I didn't like that movie before it even came out. The reason I didn't like it before it even came out was because it was a reboot. It was a continuity reset. It was pretending the earlier movies didn't happen. And given that the first Ghostbusters is one of my favorite movies of all time, I felt really disrespected by that as a fan. It felt like Sony and Columbia Pictures going, yeah, no, that's not Ghostbusters. This is Ghostbusters. And especially since my suspicion was, and it was confirmed when I eventually saw the movie, there was no need to do that. Logistically, you could have either set it in any city other than New York, or had it be that things went so quiet everybody retired. Either one would have worked perfectly fine. But I was really angry that it was a continuity reset. But when I voiced my distaste for that, I suddenly found myself in the company of people who hated it because girls. And that didn't feel good. Because, I agree with them insofar as I don't like this, but the reason I'm here is not the reason they're here. And getting caught in that was, the lesson I kind of took at the time was, be careful what you decide to be vocal about. But as time has gone on, I'm like, yeah, that really was a lesson that I need to be careful about not making assumptions if I don't want people to be making assumptions about me either. Because I see it a lot. I see it a lot, particularly in regards to media that is in some way difficult. Whether it be anything from torture porn to darker erotica, anything dealing with non-consent scenarios. A lot of people make a lot of assumptions about why people take that stuff in. And that's really not okay to do. And now, again, if somebody tells you why they like it and you have a problem with the reason they gave you, yeah, you can take issue with that. But if you're just assuming that, someone who likes this is this way and they think those things, you don't know that. Might you be right? Sure. In some cases, depending on what the thing is and what assumptions you're making, you might even be right more often than not, but you're not going to be always right. And just plowing ahead on this assumption that you've got this all figured out is just going to lead to you condemning a whole bunch of people for their preferences, when those preferences are not an automatic reflection of their morals. That having been said, the way that you engage with other people when talking about the things you like, that might be a reflection of your morals. So I know I said that she breaks the conversation, but let's bring J.K. Rowling into it just for a quick minute. You're not a bad person if you like, still, even now, Harry Potter. If you are spending any money at all on the franchise, you are contributing to transphobia. That's not debatable. That is a fact. But in terms of just liking it, continuing to like it, does not make you a bad person. It doesn't make you not an ally. It doesn't make you my enemy. However, if your continued like of it causes you to then show up in the comments of people pointing out the problems with it or with its creator and argue with them, demand that they justify their positions, in some way try and belittle and undermine their points because you don't like to feel like something that you like has problems with it. That is a reflection of your morals because you have decided that it is a higher priority that you not feel attacked or that you fight back when you do than other people be able to voice their opinion. Again, liking Harry Potter doesn't make you a bad person. Getting into big fights online with people who have walked away from it and are encouraging other people to do so as well, that might be an indication that you are, depending on how you go about that. Again, it's not automatic. Nothing is automatic. Nothing is ever always. I put that on a damn shirt. And this applies across the board. This applies to video games, books, movies, television. There's plenty of media out there that I don't understand the appeal of. There's a lot of, especially branches of the horror genre that I don't get. There's a lot of branches of romance I do not get. But the fact that I don't get it means I really have no business judging the people who it does speak to. And yeah, this applies to porn too. There is so much judgment put against people who consume adult material. And if they consume certain specific kinds, even more assumptions are made. But again, as long as it is ethically made work and no one was hurt in the process, what you enjoy does not have to reflect your morals. It is perfectly fine to like a thing that has bad morals. It is perfectly fine to partake in a piece of entertainment that has a message that you don't agree with and even acknowledge is bad. I have pointed out before that I really, really like the movie 300. I won't defend it from the accusations of ableism, of homophobia, of racism, of xenophobia, of a whole bunch of stuff. I won't defend it from those accusations. Because yeah, you're not wrong. Those aren't the reasons I like it, but I'm also not going to pretend that they aren't there. And that's the level of maturity that I am going to continue to argue for, from not just my audience, but from everybody. It's okay to like something that has problems. This should not be a purity test where you only like good works made by good people with good messages. How frickin' boring. I love Mr. Rogers. I do not want Mr. Rogers to be everything I consume. I am allowed to watch things where questionable characters do questionable things for questionable reasons, and the overall presentation doesn't even act like they're even doing that, and it just celebrates it. If I find value and meaning in that, that is okay, and it doesn't mean that I have to agree with it. Liking a piece of work does not mean that you have to agree with its messaging. Though again, maybe be careful about how you respond to other people being critical of it, because liking it isn't a reflection of your morals, but if you get into big ass fights with people over it, that very well might be. But it is okay to like media that has problems. Literally, every piece of media has some problem somewhere. And having it pointed out to you doesn't mean that you have to abandon it. You are allowed to watch things with bad messages, bad morals, depicting bad people doing bad things. It's okay. But remember, if it's okay for you, it's okay for other people too. Because you don't know what it is they like about a piece of media or why they like it. If they tell you and you take issue with those reasons, yeah, by all means, take issue with that. But if all you know is this person likes this thing, you have no business making leaps as to what parts of it they like, or assume that they co-sign everything about it, or assume that they agree with every single point that is made by that piece of art. You don't know why they like it. You don't know what parts they like and what parts they have opted to forgive even though they're aware of the problems. Not forgive in the broad sense of like, oh, racism's okay, but forgive for the purposes of watching a piece of entertainment that they get some meaning out of that isn't the bad thing. It's okay. It is okay even to like the problematic parts. There are aspects of movies that I can recognize that's not great. I like the movie Secretary. I think it is still the best depiction of BDSM dynamics that I've seen put to film, and given how old it is, that's freaking depressing. But I also can acknowledge that there is a fundamental problem with the fact that it does depict both of its leads as having clear, deep damage, and that it is a problem that BDSM practitioners and relationships, when they are depicted at all, are almost always shown to be between broken people who need this as a way to cope through their damage. And that's not helpful. It's kind of harmful. But I don't like Secretary in spite of that. I like it partially because of that. Because while I can recognize that that is not a great message in the grand scheme of things, I can also still find the beauty in the way that these two characters portrayed by these actors find another person whose damage is compatible with theirs. To pull a line from Rent, I'm looking for baggage that goes with mine. I can find beauty in that. You liking a piece of media with bad aspects, or even liking those bad aspects, doesn't make you a bad person, and that's true of everybody else out there. Now again, remember, for the purposes of this conversation, we set a lot of stuff aside. We are assuming that this is the ethical creation of the original piece of art, that we are not in a J.K. Rowling situation where you are empowering someone to do harm by supporting that art or what have you. But broadly speaking, liking something or not liking something, because also you are allowed to think that that piece of work with good morals and principles you agree with sucked. Boy, have I seen that plenty. We don't go in for the heaven or hell dichotomy here. This is not a case of everything perfect or everything damned. We don't do that around here. So what I want for you is to, firstly, for yourself, give yourself permission to like things that have problems, and even potentially like those problems. It is okay to take entertainment from things that you know are wrong, from some kind of objective metric. Be careful about defending it, and be careful about regurgitating those bad points back again, because let's not pretend that media has no impact. But simply the fact that you liked it, or laughed at it, or felt good watching it, does not make you a bad person in and of itself. So give yourself permission. This is part of why I don't use the phrase guilty pleasure. Because if something that brings no harm to anyone else makes you happy and brings you pleasure, I don't think you should feel guilt for that. But after you're done giving yourself permission to like things that you know have problems, you need to then extend that to everybody else. Because the moral absolutism and the purity nonsense that I'm starting to see a lot more regularly has got to stop. People will make art that you have a problem with. People will make art that I have a problem with. People will enjoy that. Sometimes for reasons that you or I will have problems with. But unless they say that's why they like it, you don't know that. And so, based only off someone's viewing habits, you can't assume that you know them, or what they're like, or what they believe, or what they do or don't do in their personal life. You can't. So please don't. Just had to kind of get that one out there and official and like, here's my stance on this. What are your thoughts on any of this? Whatever they are, keep them polite. Drop something down in the comments and let's talk about it. I have a Patreon. That is what allows me to do this as my living. Even if you are not able to help me out that way, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff helps. But what I really, really want you to remember, that regardless of the kinds of media that you enjoy, asterisks, so long as the creation of it is not innately deeply damaging and harmful to people, but accept that. But regardless, no matter what you like, no matter what ideas bring you joy, you are beautiful, you are valid, and you are loved. You are the council. I am just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned. And now to thank my highest supporting patrons: Robin Moore, Jared Boyce, Subin Lutfulla, Auntie Kate 808, Mira G, Angry Casperl, Dave Hall, Oliver B, Mystic Shadow, Sean Miller, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Melissa Pedersen, Becky Sparks, Ulrich, Twylord, Tracy Scrabbit, Palba Rabajoggle, Sir Didymus is my favorite, and thanking some random folks from the lower tiers of my Patreon: Puck, Lady Sammy, and Eva Bright. Don't worry, the rats are fine. Just thought we kicked the year off with Archie. What you think, bud? He's skeptical.